Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, the Shark Bacon Podcast. I'm Aidan and we're just coming off of Halloween. This is the first week of November, and honestly, I had a really fun Halloween. It gets really difficult each year thinking of things to do as an adult. We thought up some really fun activities, an assassination game to play between the family. We watched an outdoor movie that night. We painted each other's faces. All in all, we had a really awesome time. Trick-or-treating is the main pull, the thing you want to do most on Halloween, but at one point you just got to let that go. I think we should have some sort of renaissance where there should be trick-or-treating for adults. Okay, maybe just 1 hour. This is the adult hour where all the adults go out and go trick-or-treating. But until that day, I'm gonna be sitting on the sidelines thinking of new fun activities to fulfill my Halloween. Actually, one day it would be pretty cool to do the big adult Halloween party with the music and everybody going crazy. And I was one day, maybe, if I have a ton of friends. And given my track record, that's not gonna happen anytime soon. Dang, that was sad. Just looking around on YouTube, I noticed people do something called 31 on 31, and it's where you watch 31 Halloween movies, or just scary movies in general, on each day of October. So 31 for 31. I am not someone who watches a ton of horror movies. I love horror. I love gore. In my mangas, that's something that I just like, oh yeah, give me more. But in movie form, I've never partook of the classic Jason, the Freddy Kruegers, all of those iconic things that most people know of. And so this year I decided, let's do it. Let's do 31 on 31. That led me to making this list. I ranked each movie, and I thought I'll share my list with you guys and see what you think of it. I'm new to horror. I'm a new horror fan, but I'm really interested in getting into the fandom because it seems like so much fun, and there's so many other cool YouTubers who make awesome videos ranking all the horror franchises, and I get to listen to them afterwards and be like, no, I wouldn't put it there, put it way higher, or I'd put it lower, or something like that. And I think that's just the fun of getting into these movies. We all have our nostalgia, we have our opinions, and I am completely green. So if something that I says just doesn't line up with someone who has hardcore nostalgia for a franchise, then I'm very sorry, but this is just how I felt while I was watching it. So let's jump into my list of 31 on 31. Number 33, Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse is the story of a sloth taken from his home and brought to a sorority. This was the worst of the the horror movies that I viewed. Slaughterhouse technically could have been like a 5-minute Hulu special, a Huluween special. Slaughterhouse had no good kills, no good content. They focused way too much on building up the characters in a stupid movie where you shouldn't even, no characters were needed, just more blood and carnage, and that's all we needed, and made it way too long. Number 32. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. So this one comes after the main 4 movies, which are awesome. But this one decides to kind of try and take a different approach to Jason, where it's not actually Jason who's terrorizing these people, but you're led to believe, oh, maybe Jason's back after being killed in part 4. So they have a mystery going on, but really it's not a mystery. It's something you can solve very quickly. And they also introduce a older version of Tommy Jarvis from part 4. He's a strange character. I don't know how to explain it. One second he's like traumatized. He barely speaks. The next second he's fighting someone and pulling out ninja moves. He's like doing spin jitsu out there fighting a character. I'm like, your character's all over the place. I don't understand you. And the only time I really found myself enjoying the film was when silly things like, oh, the guy on the motorcycle gets decapitated, or the spikes through the bathroom kills that one guy. We're finally on the list. Number 31 is Five Nights at Freddy's, my most anticipated film. plummets to the bottom. You guys can go watch a review on Five Nights at Freddy's, but I did not at all enjoy this film. Um, I it was made for the fans is everybody's critique, but if you're really a fan, I don't know how you can say that this was made for you. Number 30. Friday the 13th, Part 3. It had amazing practical effects and kills, which is pretty much after the first two Friday the 13th, you realize that's pretty much the premise here. We're going to get a group of teenagers meeting up at one spot away from society where they're all going to get murdered. And it's exciting. This one has some awesome kills. You finally get Jason with his mask. It has one of my favorite kills where the girl that I liked, the one I was like rooting for, she goes out into the water and takes a harpoon or an arrow to the eye. Super fun. And another kid gets split down the middle. I think that's this one where he gets split down the middle. If it's not this one, that's number 4. I hope I'm not getting those mixed up. You finally get Jason, a big guy. I don't know who played Jason, but he was big, and he finally gets his hockey mask. It's iconic. It's completely iconic. And I can't really say that I enjoyed the fact that 90% of the film took place in a barn. I think they probably could have limited the barn experience. I did like the use of a chainsaw. I would like to see the use of a chainsaw in every Friday the 13th movie. You know, bring out the chainsaw, fight, fight, fight. Number 29, scary stories to tell in the dark. It has some scary sequences. The issue I had with the film was the acting. This acting just really got to me. But I really appreciated the story of like, oh, we found this book, and it starts writing stories, and whatever story is being written, like a zombie that's missing a toe, that story is going to happen. I keep losing my voice. That story is going to happen to the person whose name is also written. And you get some really crazy sequences of like, oh, what's the story going to say? And you get to see that story unfold in real time to the victim. I think it's an awesome concept. I was genuinely scared by one story about the white woman in the red room. And the way they filmed that with the cinematography, I think that was excellent. Number 28, When a Stranger Calls. When a Stranger Calls is genuinely one of the most horrific real life situations that someone could be plunged into, where the babysitter goes off to a house and there's a strange man who just keeps calling and just breathing into the telephone, making her very uncomfortable. And for anybody who knows the twist, ... I know, if that happened to any of us, we would be running our heads. We would leave the kids. Let's just say we would get ourselves out. They do a really great job at building up the suspense of like, oh, she's just walking around the house and each noise you think is something. The only issue I had with this film was the fact that they put the music throughout the whole film. Like, she could just be sitting there reading a book and you're getting boom, ticka, boom, ticka, boom, ticka, boom, ticka, boom, ticka, boom. Like this like dramatic, intense music that's trying to hype it up into these crazy moments. But I think it could have merited a little bit more from just having a silent moment. Number 27, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Freddy's Revenge is a strange title, right? Because he's not even getting revenge on the main cast from the first movie. He's there to terrorize another person. He's trying to recruit this young man and being his puppet, per se. And he just wants to kill the guy's friends. I don't know. He wants to kill his coach, who's kind of a weird man. Gets killed by balls. I don't know. And at one point, they just like, yeah, who cares? Who cares about, the rules of Freddy, the awesome established rules in the first film? Let's have him just jump out and kill a bunch of people at a pool party. It's like, did the director or anybody know what Freddy Krueger does? He gets you in your nightmares where he can do anything he wants to you and kills you. I think it was just weird, executed poorly, but an interesting time, to say the least. The boy dancing in his room, bumping his butt against the drawer, that was something. That was definitely something. Number 26. Friday the 13th. Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason Takes Manhattan is not as bad as A New Beginning, and I'll die on that hill. It's difficult to say because also The New Blood, which is, I'll just do both of these together. The New Blood is 25, and Jason Takes Manhattan is 26. The problem I have with these films, because I don't care anymore. Friday 13th can do any stupid thing they want as long as a group of teenagers are grouped together and they're getting killed by Jason in really creepy and creative ways. The problem I have with these films, especially in The New Blood, is the fact that they're all cutaway kills. This is something I found extremely disturbing in Five Nights at Freddy's, and I hate in these latter two Friday 13th films. People aren't coming to be scared, they're coming to see the carnage that Jason is going to do to these people. The thing about Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, is it does have two kills that I really love. That's what kind of saves this film for me. Jason fights a boxer who's just... I can't explain how much I was laughing during this part. The guy is just punching Jason, punching until he's out of steam. And he's like, I can't go on. I can't continue. And as he punches, and then it's finally Jason's turn. This guy's literally on his knees almost, about to faint from just punching. And Jason just decapitates that guy with one punch. And that is one of the best kills in the Friday 13th franchise. There's also the really irritating guy that you hate throughout the whole film because he threw his granddaughter in the lake, and it's super satisfying to see him just be drowned in a bucket. Like, Jason knew, I have to do this for the fans watching here. As for A New Blood, you get to see Jason face off against a girl with psychokinetic powers. I think that's the word for that. And it's just entertaining, man. Number 24, Dead Silence. Dead Silence has creepy marionette puppets, and that's all you have to say to me. Those things are creepy. Ever since I watched that episode of Murdoch Mysteries, for anybody who knows what I'm talking about, with the marionette puppet, they've freaked me out, man. They're very scary. I don't know how anybody ever found that to be a good idea to create. I think what James Wan does with the marionette puppets in this film is interesting. It's fun to kind of be afraid of the little puppet just sitting there, or it comes and stares at you from your bed, or it mimics someone's voice. That's all very creative. This is another one of those things I think could have been a Huluween special, like a 5-minute special. It did not need to be a 2-hour film where we're diving into the lore of this character who creates puppets, the perfect puppet and everything, leading into one giant twist in the end that happens in 2 minutes. Like I said, it could have been a 5-minute special and still got the point across. You didn't need to build up this really ignorant character who walks into every horror situation. But yeah, I can't say I had a bad time. I actually had a really fun time watching this film. And it's just gonna sit where it is, probably. I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to make this okay. I wish I could give everybody watching flowers or something before I drop this bombshell. Number 23, Halloween. Halloween, just it was fun. It was interesting to figure out the lore behind the character of Jason. I'm sorry. Michael Myers. The lore of Michael Myers, how he became who he was or is, and the characters were awesome. But it was just I think if I hadn't started with the Friday the 13th, I would have been fine with what I saw on Halloween. I think I would have actually liked it a lot. The problem is I came to expect a lot of like awesome kills and scares and like this feeling of dread every time Michael Myers showed up. I just didn't have any of that. I found myself getting kind of bored watching those kill sequences because it was just so basic. Other movies made him seem like over the top evil, and it just lacked in this film. Even the first kill of the film had me cracking up, where he sneaks up. He sneaks up to his sister's bedroom and starts stabbing her, and she starts making the weirdest noises, bro. She did not understand what a person being stabbed would probably sound like. I couldn't help but laugh in a lot of the sequences. Even when he comes back upstairs and he's wearing a sheet over his head with glasses. And I know that's supposed to be threatening, but I thought it was just kind of cute. Like Michael Myers he's a cutie patootie, dude. And it's hard to not view the killer that way. I want him to be the evil, pure evil that the doctor was talking about, but I don't think I got that in this first film. Hopefully, as I continue watching the franchise, I'll start to see like, oh, this is Michael. Oh, this is Michael Myers. But for now, he's just a guy who doesn't die, and he's targeting a bunch of babysitters. Messed up, bro. Not cool. Number 22 is Totally Killer. Totally Killer is a new film that was released on Prime Video. It's got Kiernan she plays Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I just had so much fun watching this film. I think they went for humor, and they also went for time travel. Time travel is the biggest element of this film, where the main character, Sabrina's family member, gets murdered, and she has to travel back in time to try to stop a serial killer that killed her family member's friends back in high school. And hopefully by stopping him, then she can stop the murder of her family member. I don't know why I don't just say it. And it's super entertaining, because who would have ever thought, let's, have a time machine. It felt random, but I just accepted it. Like, hey, I'm building a time machine. Oh, cool. Okay, we're going back in time then, baby. And when she's back in time, it's just funny. You get the just some of the most ignorant and stupid but funny characters in a slasher horror film. I don't even think you could call it horror, that lead to some really great scenarios with like the party at the home, and then they're up in a cabin. They're breaking all the horror rules, things that you should never do, like, oh, let's go out to a hot tub alone. It was just fun. Just go watch it. Number 21 is It Chapter 2. I watched these movies back to back. Chapter 2, I can appreciate the actors. They took what they saw from the first film with their child counterpart, and they really just tried to emulate and expand that performance into their adult performance. It's something you can see. Where I think the movie falls flat is the horror aspect. They tried to ramp it up into like this kind of bigger is badder is better, but the overuse of CGI is something that I do not like in these scary movies. Us horror fans, I guess if you accept me as a horror fan, we want practical effects. When we see the practical effects happening, it feels more real, it feels more authentic and genuine. But the overuse of CGI in it is almost unforgivable, honestly. The whole last sequence is zero fear, zero tension, because of just, it's not real. None of it is there. It doesn't feel like it's there or present in this situation. It did have some really dope like sequences that they conceptualized. One of my favorites was the granny sequence. Oh my goodness, did they do well. If the whole movie was that sequence, just the granny sequence, then yeah, they got me. They got me. I'm dead. I didn't visit my grandma for a week after that, and she lives next door. There was one sequence under the bleacher where I just felt bad, man. The little girl with the mark on her face goes and finds Pennywise, and Pennywise like guilt trips her. Like, oh, nobody ever loves me because of how I look. And she's like, oh, she's empathetic to Pennywise because she also, people don't understand her because of how she looks. And then he murders her. Dude, I can't. That made me so sad. I can't ever forgive Pennywise. Ugh, disgusting. Number 20, Scream 3. Scream 3 is super meta. I think we've all come to expect that from the Scream franchise, that it's going to be commenting on how these horror movies play out, especially by the third horror movie. All bets are off. You don't know who the killer could be. It might not even be tied to the main protagonist. One thing I can say about these Scream movies, and something you'll realize, is that I love the characters. Every character is just so fun, dynamic. They definitely embrace some goofy fun, especially with Officer. I think his name is Dewey. At one point, the killer confronts him. He's at the top of some stairs. Killer throws his knife right at his head. And you're like, oh, are they going to kill off my favorite character? But no, the back of the knife hits him in the head and he falls down the stairs. It's stupid, it's funny, but I absolutely love it. I love the main final girl, who does not take any crap. Like, she is us, the audience, that says, oh, when a killer's down, you don't let him get back up. You know what I'm saying? Number 19, Friday the 13th. This was my first horror film. My numero uno, okay? And it did not disappoint. I think my first reaction to the film was, is that Kevin Bacon? And it was Kevin Bacon. And it's a very basic film. You get everybody up at a camp. All of a sudden, someone starts taking out the whole cast in very creative and fun ways. And in this, you don't get any cutaway kills. You get some really impressive practical effects that still hold up, I guess. They still hold up. It's all pretty obvious when someone's about to die, when that starts going and they're walking into a dark closet. You're like, yeah, okay. But it is kind of terrifying, especially for a first-time horror viewer, seeing everybody just be ripped apart. And then the discovery that the killer in the end is just some, like, old lady is messed up, bro. You don't even get Jason Voorhees, the killing machine, in this, and his mom is just as bad. Number 18 is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is an incredible project. I don't know who came up with it. I don't know why they decided to make it into this crazy movie, but I think the producers and whoever greenlit this, because oh my goodness, is this a fun film. They got some amazing artists to come in and make these clowns, and they're genuinely freaky. I watched the trailer for this before I watched the movie, and I had a dream that night that killer clowns walked into my room and just dragged me off. These clowns do not look at all cute. And there's a scene, the clown is like outside of the restaurant where the girl's having a birthday party. He starts like gesturing to come closer. Ain't no way. Not a kid alive. Not a kid alive would go out and see that clown. But we have to suspend disbelief a little bit, because she starts heading out the door and you're like, don't you do this. This would be worse than Pennywise. Don't you do this. And luckily she stopped. But we get some really fun sequences. It genuinely is. What if clowns attacked a small town? And they come up with the most creative ways for clowns to kill people. Especially since all of them are carrying around cotton candy guns and their spaceship is a circus tent. Honestly, I'm moving it up. I'm going to move it up. By the time you guys hear my next ranking, Killer Clowns will be moved up. Number 17, It Chapter 1. I've never actually seen the miniseries, the 18-hour miniseries, but I think they set out to rejuvenize, big word, the It franchise, and I think they did great. The thing that carries the movie, once again, is Pennywise. The makeup, the way they made him look is awesome. It's creepy. If they had just focused mainly on Pennywise, I think it would have been a better film. The overuse of CGI and those sequences can be a little bit jarring, especially when you get an amazing practical performance from Bill Skarsgård. The kids do an amazing job. One of the best cast of kids I think I've ever watched. It's one of the most iconic opening sequences with little Jimmy, Timmy, Billy, someone chasing that boat down the street and then finding Mr. Pennywise in the sewer. Hi, Georgie. Pop, pop, pop. That's super dope, especially when his long, stretchy hand comes out and pulls the kid into the gutter. Number 16, Scream 2. Grita dos. We're in college now. It's the main character and all of her friends from the first one are back. She has a boyfriend. That's important. And she's in plays. She wants to be an actress. Okay, why not? Of course, the play that she's in incorporates masks heavily. And what does Ghostface wear? A mask. Let's make a cool sequence out of that. And I think they did. It's difficult for me to accept the fact that the same characters keep getting into these freaky situations, but I think for Scream it works because they keep tying it back to the mom and all of those original thoughts. But I'm so used to having the first movie be where every character dies except for one, and then you never see that girl again. It's interesting that they continue the story of one primary character throughout these 5-6 films. I think Scream is a great commentary piece, and it also is a great just thriller. You know people are going to get killed, and Ghostface, he's not that menacing, but it is fun to find out who Ghostface is in the end. Number 15, Orphan. Orphan is a hidden gem. It is something that all of us need to watch. It's about a family who just came off of a miscarriage, I believe, and they are looking for a little piece to fulfill their life. They have 2 kids already. One of them is, oh my goodness, put that one up for adoption and get the new one. You know what I'm saying? He sucks. He's a terrible kid. They go to the orphanage and just happen to pick the worst of the bunch. And that is when terrible things ensue. This is one of those ones that if you haven't seen, go watch it immediately. It deserves one of those higher spots on my list. Number 14 is Friday the 13th Part 2. Everybody knows Friday the 13th Part 2 is one of the better, if not one of the best, of the Friday the 13th franchise. Number 13, Alien. I was so excited to watch Alien because all I heard was it's like Friday the 13th in space. But I would no. Whoever said that is wrong. Alien is much better than a Friday the 13th in space. It has amazing cinematography, amazing acting, which is already 2 things above the Friday the 13th franchise. It's got an awesome new villain in the Xenomorphs. They crash land. They don't crash land. They go down onto a planet. Their ship is kind of busted, but they decide to travel out and go see what's up. And of course, when you go out of your ship on a creepy looking planet and you find a big stone statue, of course, you're going to contract a little virus. And this little virus is going to turn into a giant xenomorph and probably kill your whole ship. That's just how it happens. It happens every time. You get some of the most iconic scenes, like the scene where the little creature jumps out of the guy's chest after they're having a nice little dinner together. So sad. Dude, the scene with the robot, that's all I'm going to say, is it's bloody, it's gory, and it's so cool. Other than that, I spent the movie wanting more Xenomorph, and it was few and far between, but when we did get him in the movie, it was awesome. And the end sequence when they're on the escape pod is by far one of the best final girl sequences I think we've ever had. Number 12, Sleepaway Camp. Alright, before y'all go and judge me, I rank the movies that scare me much higher. And Sleepaway Camp scared me. I didn't expect that at all because I spent the whole movie laughing. Every kill, laughing. You get a group of kids who come up to camp. There's a lot of weird pervert adults, and I can't really say that I enjoyed that, but I enjoyed when they were murdered. And I think this is the only movie on the list where kids were genuinely murdered. But it helps kind of push that feeling of like, oh, sleepaway camp, all bets are off. Anybody can die. But at the very end, and I won't spoil anything, but just go watch it and listen to the sounds that this character is making at the end. That's what freaked me out. I found myself sitting on my bed, paralyzed, I honestly couldn't reach for the remote. I was petrified. 11. Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. This is one of my favorite of the Friday the 13th. It shot straight up. I finished it. I was like smiling from ear to ear. This is perfect. So Tommy Jarvis, the little kid, the little awesome kid from the fourth film, he comes back as an adult and he's like, I gotta finish the job. And you're like, no, right? He's dead, but you don't. He's like, I gotta go make sure he's dead. I know he's buried and everything. And he accidentally wakes up Jason from death. So we get Zombie Jason. Zombie Jason, the first thing he does is he pulls a Indiana Jones Temple of Doom and rips a dude's heart out. What does Jason do now that he's back? He just goes on a murderous rampage. And I say yes, please do. Get back to Crystal Lake. And what do they have at Crystal Lake? For the first time ever in any of these movies are a bunch of kids, right? It's something you'd expect at a summer camp, but no, it took until this sixth film, I believe, for them to get a cast of children to occupy the camp. These kids are in their beds hiding as all of their camp counselors are just getting butchered in the most disturbing ways. This one also has one of my favorite kills aside from the boxer kill. One with the police officer. He gets bent and broken like not wet spaghetti. What's the opposite of dry spaghetti? Number 10, sitting right above it, is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Right off the bat, I was really enjoying the premise and just the characters that they were setting up. You get your classic group of characters, just absolute dummies going off up into a cabin alone to go party. But the awesome addition to this one compared to the other ones is that they finally include like a little side story going on as well. This awesome family with a kid, Tommy Jarvis. I wasn't sure if the kid would even make it out unscathed. Everybody knows what happens in the end. He's the GOAT, okay? This kid is the guy. He knows how to handle himself in a situation. Other than that, we get one of the best Jasons. He's menacing. He's evil. He's got no qualms. He's got no connections. He'll kill anything and everybody in sight. And man, is he ugly. He is one ugly looking guy. A funny thing is I have a really hard time watching Goonies. I've actually never finished Goonies because of Sloth. And now I imagine Jason and Sloth probably look a lot alike. Also, in Friday the 13th Part 4, we get some twin representation. Let's go. I'm a twin, as y'all know. And that's about all the representation we get in that because we get murdered. We get murdered quite gruesomely. Number 9, A Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street is the first time we get to meet Freddy Krueger, and it does not disappoint. The cool thing about Freddy Krueger is he comes into your dreams, right? And I know that if he came into my dreams, I'd be a dead man. I literally can never win in my dreams. Everything I do, I try so hard. You know, if you're running away from something in your dream and there's a door in front of me, it's going to be locked like 80% of the time out of 100. That's just how dreams are. They don't want you to. I don't know if it's just your subconscious, but it's definitely frustrating. And then combine that with a burnt up child murderer chasing you in your dreams, you're done. You're done. I honestly loved it. I loved every second. It's another Wes Craven masterpiece. Number 8 is The Conjuring. For me, The Conjuring, we just have to accept it. It is one of the best haunted house films. They do so well at setting up these characters and setting up the tension. It's not straight in your face like everything else. They build it up. The mom's getting bruises, paintings are falling off the wall, the sleepwalking daughter is going to the cabinet at night. Just all these small little things that when you get to the finale or to the middle piece, you're gonna get a huge payoff in horror, in jump scares, in tension. It's honestly a masterpiece of horror, and it should be up there on everybody's list. Number 7 is Mama. Like I said, when something scares me, it's gotta go up, and Mama scared me. They came up with one of the most interesting ideas I think I've seen in this horror genre of these two daughters just being left out in the woods and then finally found. But what was taking care of them? What was keeping them alive? Something. Because they're brought back to the house, and that entity that was taking care of them follows them. If you want an appropriate scary movie that's genuinely freaky and scary, go give this one a watch. I don't want to spoil too much about it. I could not sleep. Everything in my room afterwards looked like a figure just staring at me, and I can't say that many of those films did that for me, but this one is one of those films. Number 6 is Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise does not include Ash Ketchum, or any Pokemon for that matter, but it does introduce us to a new family of characters who live in a high-rise. I can't say that I became too attached to any single one of them that much, but, they did. They had a record machine, so they play it, and of course, once you start playing that record, the Evil Dead are going to show up, and they do. They show up, and that is when madness ensues. Everybody knows. I think one of the coolest parts of the Evil Dead franchise, is something I'll talk about in later movies, no spoilers, is there's not really any monsters. There's no monsters in the Evil Dead. They're all just humans that have been turned into monsters, which I think is absolutely one of the creepiest things that could ever happen. Like, if I was put in a situation where Eston or anybody else was turned into a monster, I'm not going to kill them. I'm not even going to try and fight, because that's my family, or that's my girlfriend, or that's something, right? No one wants to be put in these situations. I think it just adds to the fear, especially when the entity within the person starts to mimic them, or kind of like mock you in their voice, like, "Oh honey, don't kill me, no please," and he's like, "I won't, I don't want to kill you." But you have to. That's the only way to stop the Evil Dead, is to chop them up, and chop them up they do. You get some great kills from the Evil Dead, and you get some great killing of the Evil Dead. It gives me Berserk vibes. I can't really explain it. Just the way, like in Berserk, you get this one sequence where the demons start to latch themselves onto like different people, or onto dogs at one point, or even a horse, for anybody who knows that scene, and those creatures start to distort and turn into like a demon type figure of what they were. And that's the same thing that happens in Evil Dead. To stop the things in Berserk, Guts has to pull out his giant sword and decapitate everything. Number 5 is Child's Play. This is another one of those films where I found myself just smiling from ear to ear. The beginning of the film, where you get the guy, he finds a doll, and he puts the soul into the doll. Wacky concept, because you're like, okay, this guy is very satanic, and he's in a doll now. Of course, you get the main character. What does he want more than anything? This little boy, he wants a good guy doll. And let the kid have a good guy doll. He's a big fan. He makes breakfast for his mom in bed. He deserves a good guy doll. And of course, the mom, being a total cheapskate, okay? She goes into a back alley and buys a good guy doll from some random vendor. This one, of course, is the satanic version, and his name is Chucky. Chucky spends the film using this little boy to get back at all the people that caused his death. Chucky is electric when he's on screen, especially towards the end, when it's like, this guy does not want to leave. He keeps coming back, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat waiting for what Chucky might do next. This one actually was at my top spot for a really long time, until the later editions, because I just loved it so much afterwards. Number 4 is The Evil Dead. The Evil Dead, the very first one, it almost felt like a lost tapes, the way it was filmed. It was filmed on like the oldest camera in history, and they just went up to a friend's cabin and decided to make a movie one day. They pulled off a really intense and scary film, and I think they pulled it off masterfully in making all this group of people who like love each other and care about each other end up having to turn on each other. You get Ash in this movie. He's not the Ash that we know with the chainsaw hand, but he is the scared guy trying to survive a situation and having to like kill his girlfriend type Ash. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with someone reacting normally in a situation. I'm obsessed with Evil Dead. And yes, please, no cutaway kills ever. Give me that messed up, gory. Just it's fake, so you don't need to get twisted about it. Number 3, and this could be number 1 as well, is Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat with Sam. If you guys didn't see our last video about Five Nights at Freddy's, I was Sam for Halloween. I went and got the costume after watching this movie because I wanted to be Sam. Sam is probably the cutest little horror mascot I think I've ever seen. And he's just so endearing, but also so freaky at the same time. Like when he's attacking that guy, he pulls out the candy bar with the razor blade inside of it. And he's just relentless. But at the same time, you're like, this guy's so cute. I love him. I love Sam. I think what I love most about Trick or Treat is the Halloween feel that it has. When it next year comes around and I want to be in that Halloween mood, the first thing I'm throwing on is Trick or Treat. Number 2 is Sleepy Hollow, the one with Johnny Depp. I was raised on Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad, okay? If you haven't seen that classic little animation, Ichabod Crane is one of those characters that I knew growing up. Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman. It's a classic tale. And it was so cool to see a bunch of A-list actors come and participate in this film of decapitation and just dread. The character of the Headless Horseman, when he had a head, he was played by Christopher Walken, which kind of threw me for a loop. Like, aren't you supposed to be scary? No, you're Christopher Walken. That's weird. Once he loses his head, he turns into like this total bad. He was amazing. Just chopping heads right and left, taking out characters I didn't like, which I appreciate. Johnny Depp did an excellent job portraying Ichabod Crane. He was eccentric, to say the least, in his portrayal, and I think he definitely carried a good majority of this film. This is another one of those movies that made me have that Halloween feel, and it's one that I'll be returning to next year because I know Eston really wants to watch it. If you hadn't heard it on the list, you're going to hear it now. Number 1, the GOAT, the greatest of all the movies that I watched, of 33 movies, is Scream. Scream was beautiful. Beginning the movie, they have one of the greatest opening sequences ever with the phone calls and the girl in her house. I was hooked immediately once that all started. Quickly after that, they followed up with the tension building at school, and everybody's kind of talking about it. You're wondering, who could this killer be? What's their connection to the girl? Why did they do it? And it really turns into this whole mystery. Each character has their own little quirks, their reasons for how they act, their beliefs, and the combination of that cast together creates a very interesting and compelling story. Your main character, I was a little bit hesitant of her at the beginning. She's kind of written as the stereotypical, like, this is the girl that will survive to the end. But as the movie continues, she starts to break some of those horror rules, and you're like, oh, is she gonna die? I love Ghostface. Oh my gosh, everybody who knows, if you've seen this film, these are the best Ghostfaces. And I think this is by far my favorite film. I'll watch this. It doesn't even have to be Halloween time, and I'll go back and watch this. This is my horror list. This is 31 on 31 plus 2. And I had so much fun getting into this. I can't wait to further join myself into the horror community. And thank you guys for watching. If you did watch to this point and you liked what you heard, or you like me, I don't know, please give us a follow, give us a like, and we'll see you on the next video.